So everybody, this is Mark di Giuseppe, better known as the legendary Straniero, better known as the Philharmonic Orchestra of Porta Portese, better known as the Philharmonic Orchestra of the Spanish Quarter of Napoli, better known as Trashman Blues, and also known as the administrator of the One Man Band Club. I'm doing the fourth installment of Pimp, my one-man band, and I'm pretty happy with the way that my instrument is at the moment, so I thought I'd give you another show of how the instrument works and as many tips as I can about building your own one-man band or refining the one that you've got already. A lot of one-man bands, they start with just putting drums on the ground and building up from there. Some of them stay very simple and don't need any kinds of machines or stuff. Me, I've always been into building things and experimenting, and I've been doing this for many, many years and done so many experiments, so I'm going to try to give you the benefit of what I've learned from how to build a one-man band. So, most important thing to remember is always that your materials have to be the strongest and lightest possible materials that you can use. So I work a lot with hardwood. The frame of this instrument, which originally was supposed to be all of recycled materials, and now is some recycled materials. So the basic framework here is a very light hardwood that's used for it was from an umbrella, one of those big giant wooden umbrellas that they put at like bars and stuff. What do they call that? A garden umbrella or something? Patio umbrella. Anyway, this wood is very strong and very light. And the way that I built this instrument, it's all quite flexible. It's all made so that it can move. It's not, because in that way it doesn't break as easily. It's made to stay together, but to be flexible so it doesn't just crack right away. So I'm going to give you a tour around the instrument. Pick the camera here, and here we go. So the bass drum I built from a wash basin, a plastic wash basin. Now I used to use it turned around the other way and beat on the plastic head of the bottom of the wash tub, which sounded pretty good, but it was very quiet and it also kept breaking. So I instead turned the basin around, and here I have skin. This skin here is it's a pre-stretched skin. I think it's Remo. They made these drums that are fixed tuning. They're untunable, but the heads come right off. It's just a skin stretched onto the head. And I put that inside the wash basin. It fit perfectly. And I held it on with cable ties. Almost everything in this instrument is held together with cable ties. You can see here, cable ties, these nylon zip things. All right. So I used to have a snare drum made from I've got it right here, in fact, hang on. A snare drum made from a biscuit, a coffee, a cookie tin. And I put some chains on it. And it actually doesn't sound so bad. The problem is that they break. It's nice and light too. That's what's really nice about it. Anyway, put that back. I switched to this snare drum that I made by taking a regular snare drum. I took out the wooden frame and I replaced it with my own. I built a wooden circle, a wooden frame that was just thick enough that it would finish like this. So there's actually no body in the snare. It works. It's got a brush inside of it held against the skin there. Okay. And now my snare drum is hooked to this hand when I'm playing the guitar. I have one of these two loops in my hand. The two loops are because I have a double neck guitar. So when I'm on the upper guitar, I need to use this one. When I'm on the bottom guitar, I need to use the bottom one. And when I pull down, it pulls this fiberglass rod here, which pulls up by these strings, and I'll explain why, onto this mallet, which is made from a piano hammer. Piano hammer glued onto a fiberglass rod from a fishing rod. Now why? Because it's extremely flexible and won't break. That goes into a cork, into a PVC tube. There's a pivot there, the axis, and there's a piece of elastic here. Now that piece of elastic keeps the snare hammer pulled up. When I pull down, this goes up, pulling that up and down. And at the same time, this also hits this, which is another piece of fiberglass from a fishing rod. It's got a little piece of metal in the end and gives me a nice little beat on the cymbal there. And I set it up. Now see, I put this cord here. When I adjust this cord, I can adjust the difference between the two. So what happens when I pull down on this for the guitar, if I pull lightly, I only get the cymbal. Maybe it's not adjusted perfect, so I just taken apart. And if I pull harder, I get both together at the same time. So I'm getting two sounds with just one move of my hand. Now the cymbal also has another hammer, which is, this here's a hinge, and it's got a piece of metal to, there's a brass disc that came out of a telescope. And now this rope here, this one keeps it from falling down too far. There's a little circle that pulls it right here. And this one pulls it up. And this here, this rope, this goes onto the end of my guitar, onto the headstock. So when I push down on the guitar, I get my crash, if you want. It's a crash, right? And it hooks on with this little clip. Let's see. So I get two sounds on the cymbal. I got that and that. The cowbell, which is right here and has its hammer there, is controlled by this string. Okay, now when I've got this thing on my hand, one of these two loops is always on my hand. I pull down, I got my snare and my cymbal, and when I pull this way, I get the cowbell. So what I'm doing is I'm getting my snare and cymbal like this, but when I pull out like this, I get a cowbell. Clunk, 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 clunk. Okay, under my other arm, under this arm here while I'm playing the guitar, under this arm, there is this lever here, which is made from another piece of fiberglass. It pulls on this rope here, which goes to my mallet to hit the wood block, gem block, whatever you call it. So when I do this under my arm, that's giving me my wood block sound, okay? And then around the back here, this piece of junk is from travel. I have to take that off. It protects the hammers inside the suitcase. So the hammer's down here. I'll put the camera down a second again. Hang on, let me see if I can prop it up a bit, maybe. Hang on, sorry to make it jump all over. Here's my hammers, which are still piano hammers, right? They're the bigger piano hammers. Now, I forgot to mention, I'll get back to that in a second. So the hammers here, they have a nice strong axis here, axle, and they're pulled back by these elastic bands here. That keeps the hammer pulled back. When I pull down on these ropes, which go to my feet, I have two different bass drum hammers, which aren't working at the moment because I'm stressing the body, but it does now. And they work like that. Okay. Oh, I was going to talk about, whoops, sorry about that. Hi. Let's see, I was going to talk about the hammers. Why do I use these felt hammers? When a drum head is anything, a cowbell or anything, when you're hitting it always right in the same place because a machine is doing it, it's not like playing by hand where you could hit it anywhere. You're pushing always in the same place, and sooner or later, if you use a stick, it's going to break the head, for sure. It will break the head. Repeated use, it has to happen much faster than it would happen normally because you're always hitting it right in the same place. So I always use felt, and these hammers are perfect because they're designed really to give you the hardest hit possible with still being soft enough that it's not going to break the head. All right, so now I'm going to go into the electronics of my instrument here. There are microphones all over it. I've set it up so that when I get on stage, I just one cable, that's it, and I can go on nice and quickly. It doesn't give me the best sound in the world, but it's great to be able to just not have technical problems and just go and do my show. So there is, under the cymbal here, you can see there's a very small capsule mic here, right? And you can't just hook capsule mics into an amplifier and expect it to work. You have to build a small circuit, which you can look up on the internet, of how to, how to power these capsule microphones. Is whatever you call them. And it's a very simple circuit. It takes 2 resistors and 1 capacitor and wiring them and a battery, and then wiring them in the proper sequence, and you can use these microphones. I'm gonna show you I'll show you all my preamp, my power things are. So there's that mic there. There's this mic here, which is a normal, like a Shure, that goes for the wood block. There's a mic inside here, which is for the bass drum, and it's even got a piece of foam rubber between it and the skin, which works as a mute on the skin. And there's another microphone under here for the snare. And then in the front, I have this while I'm singing, right? And this here has one singing microphone, which has a condenser microphone that's a little bit better than the others. This is for my main singing. This here is another normal capsule, and it goes to the harmonizer. So I get 3 voices when I sing into that one. And there's another little condenser mic here. Let me see if I can show it to you better. Right there. And that's for the harmonica. It's always sitting right behind the harmonica when I put the harmonica in there. And they all are wired together via this USB. Now if I plugged this USB into a computer, it would blow up probably. But there's 4 different wires inside of there. And that goes for 1 for the ground, and then 1 positive for each microphone. Gives me 4 wires. So I can just one cable, buck, and I'm plugging in 3 microphones at the same time. Those go into this USB cable, which is actually the other piece of it. And they travel down into this, which is my main, it's the main electronics area here. Let's see, open it, there we go. In here we've got 1 battery, small battery. Now that powers all the microphones. They only need 1.5 volts, it's fine. And the battery will last for years, years of using it all the time. Okay, let's see now. In here are these simple circuits for the microphone to power them. There's 4 of them. There's 1, 2, 3. Oop, I'm gonna lose the whole thing. There's 4 of them there. And you can see the circuits right there. Actually, oh, there's more than 4 of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each each one of these here, the two resistors and one capacitor, are all you need to power one microphone. There's 5 of them there, so I can have 5 separate microphones. And in fact, I think one of them isn't wired up at the moment, and I should because I need it. All right, let me close this again so I don't break anything. This is a line matching transformer. Now, for the harmonizer, it has an XLR input, right? It's a low impedance input. But the microphones that I'm using are high impedance. And in order to change the impedance, to make the microphone sound much better, to get your levels right, and it also helps the sound, you need a line matching transformer. You can't just take the microphone and wire it directly to the XLR. You're going to be losing a lot of sound quality. These things are cheap. It's this little tube right here. It's got a simple circuit in it, and you can get them real cheap at the music store, at your instrument store. So that changes the microphone for the harmonizer. Where's the harmonizer? Okay, I'll show you now. That's the harmonizer right here. And it's a TC Helicon Harmony Singer, which is a nice pedal because I don't need to touch any controls on it. You don't have to dial in what key you're playing in or anything. You don't have to change anything. It listens to your guitar or your piano or whatever, and it builds harmonies around what it's hearing from your instrument. So I like the pedal. It's powered by a 12-volt battery. And here's another 12-volt battery, which actually, at the moment, it's power. The other 12-volt battery powers the mixer. Okay, now the mixer takes almost no current at all. It doesn't consume the battery. And but the harmonizer consumes a lot of battery quickly. So I built a switch right here. This switch can switch between the 2 batteries to where they go, and in that way, I can perform for hours until the harmonizer is almost run out of battery. And I can switch it because the battery that's already consumed quite a bit, it still works fine for the mixer. And it's like giving a fresh battery to the harmonizer. There's another battery here that goes to the Zoom, which is the effects for the guitar. And so everything finishes over here in the mixer. This is a 8-channel battery mixer. It was originally for 9 volts. Now I just plug a 12-volt battery into it and it's fine. Most electronics that run on 9 volts, you can run on 12 volts. If it blows up, don't blame me, but I've done it to almost everything and never had a problem. Now this channel is an 8-channel mixer. I've added a 9th channel. This 9th channel is it's a guitar preamp. I found a kit in the 90s in an electronics store to build this preamp, and the thing is incredible. It just makes such a difference for the sound of the guitar. If I plug the guitar directly into one of these channels, which has no equalization either, it sounds very muddy and thick. This, on the other hand, this channel is it just boosts the sound of the guitar, cleans it up so much, gives it so much more depth. And so all the microphones, they all come from that USB cable over to the where the microphones are powered, and then over here. And that's it. I got one main, so I got my voice, harmonica, snare drum, harmony vocals, bass drum, wood block, jam block. This one's empty, and this one is the cymbals. And that's it. That's the whole instrument pretty much. One more thing I'd like to talk about though is that when I build things, like I'm saying, things have to be really strong because you're always giving it that same movement, thousands of times hitting and banging and stuff. So you want it to last as long as possible. And I want things to be light as possible too. I made these bass drum hammers. It's got a piano hammer. It's got a screw. It goes down into the fiberglass rod. And I've also put on some epoxy putty on there to really strengthen up this joint. It goes into this wooden block here. Now the thing that I really want to talk about here is that hardwood, You know, I would never use something like pine or something for this. This is a good hard wood. I think it's walnut. Wood can be extremely resistant and strong, even more than metal, but you have to use it properly. And so like when I make a machine out of this, it's going to be it's going to be hitting and hitting lots of times. So the axis is in there. There's a metal rod inside there. I've drilled holes in there, in this block of wood, against the grain. The grain of the wood is going this way, right? So I've drilled holes against the grain here and put in barbecue skewers, bamboo barbecue skewers with lots of glue. And that keeps this like this, so it can't split open this way. And then I've also put them in up here that keeps it squished down this way. It can't break apart this way. It can't break apart that way. And this is the way that the grain goes. It'll never break apart that way. So you're strengthening, you know, your wood. This is always a good thing to do. That's it, gang. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you send sometime a video shows how you guys do your stuff, because I'm interested. And that's it from all of us here at the One Man Band Club. Rock and roll.